Like, what? Hello. Hello.
Me.
Hello.
Hello?
Yes.
What's up, man?
What's
Can
up?
we talk about the second one?
Sure.
Wait, can you see me or can you only hear me?
I can hear you. I can't see you.
So, what are you arguing that body count doesn't matter?
Correct. I don't think body count matters.
So, y- so let's take this for example. You have a girl who has 150 bodies. You're not
Good for her.
phased by that?
No.
Okay. No, that's something I could respect, but how do you let yourself get past it?
Easily. I don't care what someone's done in their past. I care about who they are in their
Okay.
present.
Facts. Good point. Good point. And number 4, what is your issue with number 4?
I believe toxic masculinity is a real thing, and I believe it's dangerous to both men and women.
So how is it dangerous to men and women?
So it's dangerous to men because I believe it's what leads to mass rates of male depression and suicide. I also believe it causes men to be socialized poorly. And I think it's dangerous to women because I think it leads to SA, it leads to murder, it leads to a bunch of other stuff. I mean, technically, I believe it leads to murder too for men as well. So yeah, I believe it leads to all of that.
So you think that men being too masculine leads to depression?
I'm sorry, say that again.
So you think that men being too masculine
Toxic
leads to?
masculinity doesn't just mean that you're like too masculine. That's not what it means.
Can you just elaborate on toxic masculinity? Is it like the Andrew Tate stuff?
Yeah, so when I look at toxic masculinity, it specifically looks at how masculinity can affect those around you and how you use masculinity in negative and or toxic ways. So one of those is that I've talked about is entitlement. Men, when they're socialized, often feel a level of entitlement to a person, thing, or space. That entitlement is we used to it's gotten a lot less in, but there's still people who grow up this way. We used to socialize men that they were the strong ones in the room, they were the voices to be listened to. This is just how we socialized them for years and years. The other one I look at is for men is hyper rage. Oh, I didn't even brought this one up yet, but like a hyper sense of rage, which you can see in the way we socialize boys when like it comes to sports and it comes to other things. We kind of get into men's head that winning is all that matters and that like they have to be hyperly aggressive to accomplish or achieve anything. The other I look at is the dangers it puts on men for the way that they how like how you can be a man. We tend to tell men that there's like one way, specific way to be a man, and it typically boils down to provider and protector, and that if they cannot accomplish those, they are less of a man. Thus, it can lead to, I mean, it can lead to a lot of stuff. It can lead to a lot of pride issues. It can lead to depression. It can lead to suicidal tendencies. And then there's just, the way men interact with women, and they feel that women have to give them their time, have to give them their bodies, have to give them their space. It's all boiled into toxic masculinity.
Interesting. So you think that? So what is your definition of a man?
I don't think there is a set
Yo,
definition
Bob,
of.
what's going on? Sorry, my boy's in the chat.
Yeah, I don't think there's a definition of what it means to be a man, right? I don't think there's a set definition of that. I think there should be as many definitions for like how to survive in manhood as there are men in the world. Because for some people, being a man is taking care of their family. It is doing all this. To others, being a man is being successful in industry. To some, being a man is being a creative. So I think that to try to box up being a man is harmful to men as a whole.
So you'd agree that being a man is being successful?
No, I say some people would say that. Yes, I that's not my definition of being a man, but that's some people's.
Interesting. Okay, so is that why you have the anti-Andrew Tate stuff in the back? I can tell you don't like Andrew Tate.
I just think the picture's funny because he focuses on hypermasculinity and he thinks hypermasculinity is what makes you a man. So it's funny to see him put into a yassified feminist view,
So
feminine
what
view.
don't? So what else don't you like about Andrew Tate? The
Tate is a
top.
Tate is a just a grifter. I mean, he's not doing anything that has never been done before. Pickup artists slash like get rich quick tycoons have existed for like fucking years. If you actually look at the way he came up, what he does is he says a lot of outlandish things, a lot of really crazy things to build an audience. Then he says like one or two sane things after that, so people can go, well, look, he's not all crazy because he said this thing, which makes a lot of sense. Like he'll go on this tirade about women and cheating and sex and all that, but then at the end of the day say, but I believe relationships are beautiful and love is important. None of which are these like crazy like out there concepts, right? He's saying very basic, very like middle of the road things in that regard, things that like everybody would say and everybody would know. And he uses that to build an audience, which then he, specifically a younger audience of like 14, 15, 16, which he can then loop into his get rich quick schemes, which are his like Hustlers University, where he's just going to charge you $50 a month for information you can get free by just Googling it. And again, none of this is new. He's just probably the most successful person that's done it. But none of what he's doing is new in any way, shape, or form.
So you don't think he had a positive impact on the young not masculine, but young male community?
Absolutely not. I think he's had genuinely a negative impact on them.
Well, see, that's where I could disagree, because I think that Andrew Tate put it into people's brains that doing more is better. And that's why a lot more people became motivated after watching him. And a lot more people felt like they could push and do more stuff after watching him. So you wouldn't agree with that?
No, I don't believe that's happening. I believe what he's doing is trying to get people, quote unquote, motivated so they'll buy his product. And they'll try to get him to teach them how to be rich, when like no one using Hustlers University has made enough money that they can like escape the matrix, right? They maybe at max make like an extra couple $100s a month doing things that they didn't need to spend money to learn how to do, or doing things that are legitimate scams, such as like drop shipping or like being an Amazon affiliate. Like I won't say an Amazon affiliate is a scam, but like what he treats people is like, this is how you're going to get out of the boot of like be your own boss. But like, if you're an affiliate for Amazon, you're just working for Jeff Bezos. Like he pays your paychecks. So like, I think my issue with Andrew Tate is he's just a long line of scam artists that have been scamming people since the dawn of VHS get rich quick schemes. Just been doing it forever.
Okay, fair. I see what you're saying by that. I do. And you were talking about male depression before. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, so
because that's when I joined this live, and then that's when I wanted to queue up and see what was going on.
Yeah, so men are typically socialized to ignore their mental health. We're taught stoicism, which is like, just keep pushing through, go through all these hardships, don't ever show your emotions. Specifically, don't show your emotions, right? Like, boys don't cry is a saying for a specific reason. We're taught that we shouldn't have to rely on anyone, that we should be reliant on ourselves and get through that. Now, all of this affects our brains negatively. We are by design social creatures. We are creatures that need other creatures for help. We are like, that's literally how we were created and how we evolved in the world. So I think a big issue with depression is you have people such as Andrew Tate who come out and go, well, depression isn't real. You can just work past it. You can do this, you can do that. Ignoring the fact that genuine clinical depression is a diagnosable, treatable, sometimes, illness that like you need to get help for. You can't just work your way past it. That's why men have a high level of alcoholism. That's why men typically have a higher level of drug use, because all of this trauma that we create in our lives as men, we do not have appropriate outlets for. So we turn to other toxic, violent, or self-destructive methods, such as, like I said, alcohol, drugs. We become domestic violence. Like, most men that commit domestic violence abuse, right, were victims of domestic violence themselves and did not have a way to work through that trauma prior to getting into relationships, and then they become abusers themselves. So like, all of these things I think affect men's mental health, specifically like with depression, and we can see that male suicide is on the rise. Women commit more suicides, but we like absolutely are better at suicide. Men tend to succeed in suicide more often. So I think all of that is just issues one and of themselves.
Okay, fair, fair. Interesting. So, if you had depression, how would you treat it?
I mean, I go to therapy. I've been going to therapy for 4 years. I go
So
to
you think
therapy
that go
at least once a week, preferably twice a week.
Okay, okay. Respect to you for that. So you think that depression is something that you can I'm trying to think of how I could word this because I do know that it's a sensitive topic. You see what I'm saying? So if I have depression, you don't think that I myself can fix my own depression?
I think if you're just depressed, like I'm just a little sad, yeah, sure, you can work yourself out of sadness. And therapy, one of the key things they teach is like ways to work yourself out of a depressed state and out of like a state of depression. But clinical depression that affects your brain chemistry is a treatable thing, not a curable thing. You cannot get over clinical depression. You can't get over the chemical imbalances in your brain. That has to be treated with either therapy or sometimes medication. Now, sometimes there are things that make you depressed, like you could have a traumatic event, you could lose a family member, you could be taking, like the last guest, you could be taking meds that are actively causing depression, and like some of those will help, like getting past those will help you get over the depression. But clinical depression is not something you get over. You just need to do the work so that way you can be treated for it and go about your daily life.
So let me ask you this. Me paying Andrew Tate to try and learn how to make money and then me paying someone to get information that I could already get for free. Those are the exact same things. Me going
If
to
you
someone to
think
try and learn
if you think going
to someone to
online
try.
wait, if you think going online and picking up a
Yeah,
few things is the same as going to
fuck.
therapy, they're not. Therapists have to go through years of training in order to be able to diagnose, treat, and help their patients. It's not just some. If you could go online and get therapy for free and get like the same benefits, then the whole mental health industry would collapse. But you can't do that. Trust me, I have tried. It is a
So what do you
vastly
think?
different thing.
So what do you think about doing physical activity to help mental activity?
So yeah, a lot of therapists will tell you that being up and being active can help your mental state. It can produce dopamine along with a lot of other, it can produce serotonin, like all of those can produce a lot of other things. But they are not the end all be all cures. They're not like this. There are some people who go to the gym every day and are still depressed, right? There are multiple steps you have to take in combating depression and mental health, and there's no one size fits all cure, and there's no one answer for it.
Okay, good point. Good point. That's fair. That's very fair of you to say.
Yeah.
So what else? What else you talking about? Just these 7 things here?
Yeah, that's pretty much it for today.
Nice. So the body count one. Let's talk about that again.
Okay.
Why? I feel like that doesn't go in this list. I feel like it doesn't matter. I also feel like body count is glamorized because of social media. What do you
I
think about social media giving people
I don't
depression?
think body count.
Could you
Well,
agree? Or
yeah, no. Anything can help. Can not help. Anything can exacerbate or cause or add to your depression. And social media absolutely can, specifically in younger people who do not have the same way of compartmentalizing social media. So, for example, I sit on this app all day and people try to shit talk me all day. I could give a shit. None of them exist to me. The second I close this app, you're all gone. There are people who that level of hate would send them spiraling, right? So, yes, I believe that for some people, turning off the screen is a great step in combating your depression or your mental health, but it's just a step, and it's just one of many steps.
so, I guess the word for being extremely sad is depressed. What's the word for being extremely happy?
For being
There
extremely
isn't one.
happy, I mean, there's a lot of
There
different
isn't one.
synonyms for depression. Depressed is just like a synonym of sad, and there are a lot of synonyms for happy. There are words though for like excess happiness. Hold on, what is it called? What is it called? I have to look
Ecstatic,
into it, but
manic.
there's manic. Manic is the word. Thank you guys. Manic, euphoric is also one. But like excess, too much happiness is also a bad thing, because you can have like a manic episode, and that's
No,
also bad. Yes.
how is being too bad? Let's talk about that.
How is what?
You
I'm
think that being too happy is bad?
If you're having a manic episode, absolutely. Yes. I I am not a therapist, so I can't like explain this as well as somebody who's trained for like 6 or 7 years can. But mania is not fun. I don't have mania. I know a lot of people who do have mania, and it is exhausting, and you can't control it, right? You are in these states, and there's nothing you can do to get out of it, and there's nothing you just have to ride that wave. And it is not fun, because then you have your crash. It's not a good thing. So like, yeah, too much of anything is bad. There is literally not a substance on this planet where you can have infinite amounts of it and be okay.
That's a valid point. That's a valid point. You're right. Interesting. So, I don't know, man. I think you're bringing up some wild points right now. So let me ask you this: What is your goal with this live video? Because I can't believe I'm here live. I'm always tuning in, and now I'm actually here in the cut.
I go live pretty much daily. It's just what I do. It's half of it is because this is a job for me. I make like half my income doing this, live on TikTok and Twitch. I like to consider myself an advocate for social needs and social awareness, and I like debating. Debating is one of the things that I enjoy doing, so that's why I do it.
So you make your money from, and I don't mean this in a bad way, from sitting behind a computer, like behind a screen all day. Does that get to your mental health at all? Do you feel like
so I have periods of burnout?
A lot of technology, a lot of.
No, I have periods of burnout like anyone does in any job. But specifically, I mean, I love sitting behind computers all day. I've always liked technology. I've always liked the internet. Like that's nothing. I could sit on a computer for 24 hours, which I have, multiple times. It's fine for me. It's just the burnout that I have to watch out for, because sometimes you just go, and you don't give yourself a second of rest. And I still have a regular 9 to 5. So I do my 9 to 5, then I come home and do this. So it's.
Yo, Rackabar. I went through a pandemic, buddy, but I worked like a man. How's that one make you feel? So what do you think about that comment I just said?
I think it's toxic.
So it's toxic that me working through a pandemic, you think that's toxic?
No, had you responded with, I went through a pandemic, but I worked through it. That's what I did. I worked. But you responded, I worked like a man, insinuating that in order to be a man and in order to have been successful during the pandemic, you had to have worked, when there are a lot of men who couldn't. They were out of jobs. They were fired. They were let go. Like I think that phrase in and of itself is a harmful phrase that we should be looking like we should, a lot of what I do when I talk about this is trying to change language, because language is the first barrier of harm for like any form of toxicity, any form of bigotry, any form of oppression. Language is the first ring of harm on the ladder.
Okay. So when take it for me, example, I could not go and live through a pandemic doing nothing. I had to make money. I had to do something. I got fired from a job. I got another one. Like, what's the problem with that? Why couldn't half the fucking country do that? What's your reason for that?
Well, yeah, so there's not an infinite amount of jobs, and a lot of places like just closed. So there are people whose jobs were in food industry jobs, and the food industry was hit like some of the hardest during the pandemic. So they lost their work and could not find other work. There are people who saw the pandemic as sort of a break, right? I saw the pandemic as what I hoped was an employment reset. And my hope after the pandemic was we were going to lose the grind culture, and we're going to find out that we could actually our country could afford to allow its citizens to stay home more or work from home more or do some other things. That didn't happen, unfortunately. There was no big employment reset like I had hoped there would be, even though we very clearly saw that like employment um employee mistreatment was like an all-time high. But instead, I don't think there's an issue with anybody who stayed home during the pandemic. I don't think there was an issue with anybody who was receiving unemployment. I think if you could find a job and work it and you were willing to work it, great. I worked throughout the pandemic because I had an at-home customer service job. So I did not need to go out into the house. There are some people who were forced to continue to work like grocery store jobs. I think that was incredibly immoral of us to do, but we still did it. So I don't think anybody's lazy for staying home. I don't think anybody's lazy for not working during a global pandemic, right? I would never call somebody lazy for that.
So, if I told you that I think the pandemic is fake, what would you say?
Respectfully, I would call you an idiot.
So why would you say that?
Over 1 million people in America have died from one virus. And that's just America.
Over a million. Like the amount of people that died from the flu was at least, I think it was 3 times that. If you want to,
no.
I know you're behind.
If you look per year, the flu tends to kill about 25,000 people per year on the high end. COVID was consistently killing 300,000 people a year. Nowhere near the flu.
And you think they were dying from COVID?
Yes, I worked in the medical field. There was no mass reporting of different things. Like when you see a death certificate, there are multiple things on death certificates, and they would always list COVID as in like an exasperator. But what we have to understand is these people who died of like other things. So for example, some people had cancer, then they caught COVID and they died because their cancer was able to kill them. But we recognize that had they not caught COVID, they would probably have survived because COVID wrecks your immune system, it wrecks your lungs, it does all these other things. So like, yes, people were actually dying of COVID-19. First of all, there's no reason to fake a global pandemic that crashes our economy. Like there's genuinely no reason to do that. So yeah, no, the pandemic is absolutely real.
That's crazy. You see, I'll be honest, I think it was fake. I think that the biggest problem with the pandemic was the lifestyle that Americans have.
What does that even mean?
It all comes down to, I'm going to tell you the big things: nutrition and physical activity. I think those are what Americans lack the most. And I think that's why everyone got sick and exaggerated this fucking pandemic.
So nothing's exaggerated. Nothing was exaggerated. COVID can hit somebody who is completely healthy the same way it hits somebody with comorbidities. Now, we recognize that comorbidities can exacerbate your COVID-19, but like, again, there are people who are perfectly healthy and were still dying. So to say that it's all about lifestyle and to say that it was fake or any of this is just disrespectful to literally 1 million people. 1 million people died, and to say that it was fake is just incredibly disrespectful to them.
Yeah, man, I'm going to still sit here and say it's fake, but that's just me. See, this is what's crazy is I'll say what I have to say, and like the people in your chat will actually go crazy and flip out. And I think that's hilarious. Because it just goes to show you
saying a virus that killed 1 million people is fake. So I view their outrage as kind of justified.
Listen, man, I think everyone's entitled to their opinion. My whole family got COVID. No one was sick. My aunt actually died during the pandemic. And do you know what the hospital had the balls to call us and say? That she died from COVID. When she died from the surgery that she was getting in the hospital. But that's a whole different can of worms. I mean, I clearly do think that there's differences in the information that people need. I think a lot of people in this chat all watch CNN, and I'm a person who watches Newsmax. I think that there's too many differences in this country, and I think that's where everyone like collides and gets mad. Like these people actually are being rude about the stuff I'm saying. It's not affecting me. I don't give a shit. I'll say whatever I want. Like, I think the pandemic was fake. This is going to be a wild one. You know, I'm not even going to say it.
I think you are
I
just
think
trying to like say reactionary things, and because you're not getting a rise out of me, you're looking to get a rise out of my chat.
no, dude.
That's what I
I
think is
told
happening.
you like in the beginning. Like I always tune into your lives and like I listen, and I was shocked when it was like, oh, you're up. I was like, damn, like I'm really up. And I just wanted to talk because you do seem like a cool dude, and I know we have different like opinions and different like sights on things. So I was like, let's see if he just wants to chat. So I mean, they're writing shrimp. I think they're talking about the size of my cock. So I think that's a little messed up. But hey, man, it was good talking to you.
Yeah, sure thing.
Have a good one, bro.
You
Not
too.
yeah, the shrimp emojis, man. Those ones hurt. So do you like kick me now or like what's up? I get my
Sure,
cat.
sure I will.
Hey man, have a good one.